Yeah. You know, one thing that we should not hope for, and this, I always say this to whatever, every time that we talk about Africa issues, it's for the, international support, or, international communities, as we say, because the guys like UN, they're the one that have been responsible for decades for what is happening in Congo for decades, and they're causing death every single day. This is something that we cannot hope for. But the question comes here that even our neighbors and us Africans, we're not stepping up. We're not stepping up to speak. We're not stepping out to support. We're not stepping out for anything. And which I mean is, yes, there might be, few, people supporting, but it's not enough. This is the continent that has 54 different countries. It's more than 1.3 billion people. There's something that Africa can do to stop what is happening in Sudan. Right, so we as Africans, we are listening now. All right, we are listening now, because this is what I hope. If Africa will come together in unity and stand with the people of Sudan, then I believe that there will be a breakthrough, because divided Africa and conflicted Africa is better for them. That's why I'm saying if they're not gonna help, they're not gonna step up. They'll show that image, but we know what is really going on, behind the closed door. But we need to remind our people that this is not just Sudanese, crisis. This is African crisis, right? And in the times like this is the moment that we need to come together in unity and support one another. And what can we do? What can we do in the government level? What can they do as our governments to support what is happening? If every single country in Africa decide that, okay, we'll take like 2,000 refugees or 1,000 refugees, how many refugees? And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna use that name. I'm sorry, I'm taking that back, because African cannot be a refugee in his or her own continent. All right, they're Africans, they're not refugees. So what can we, especially for our governments, if each government decide to take 1,000 African from Sudan or 500 African from Sudan, then we'll reach the goal, right? And our people, innocent lives of women, children, and men as well, they're not gonna be wasted, because we're talking about the future of Africa. We're talking about the future of Sudan, and it's our future as well. We must be concerned about it. We must worry about it. We must do something about it. And individuals, all right, because individuals, we have a part to play. There's something that we can do. What can we do to raise awareness? What can we do to support what is happening in Sudan? And that's what I want us to go to that direction right now. Because whenever Africa come together, if Africans we come together, I mean, nothing is impossible. I know nothing is impossible. And there will be a change, and there will be a breakthrough in Sudan. But we need to bring our people together. We need everybody to talk about this. Every African to talk about this. Whether you're in the diaspora or in the continent, you gotta talk about this. You gotta do something about this, because it's really sad, when you are in a situation like this, and you are struggling with war and food and all this stuff, and also you feel like you're alone. Not feel like, you are alone in all of this, and you got nobody. And we say that we're Africans. That's hypocrisy. So what can we do? What should we do? All those that I know I'm not even supposed to ask you guys this question, because as long as you're African, you gotta do something. I mean, you're African. You have a family, you have a dad, you have a mom, you have a brother.
Mika, it goes beyond, before it going to the African level. If we're going to talk about accountability, if we want any kind of right or space to be holding the international arena accountable, our fellow African sisters and brothers accountable, as Sudanese, we need to hold ourselves accountable. We still have Sudanese who have no idea what's happening in Guinea, what's happening in West Darfur, or how the Nuba Mountain got to where it is, or why Nubians in the Shamaliya don't speak their languages, or why they have to go abroad to connect or have any kind of formal connection with their land. We, as Sudanese, have a lot to learn within each other, from each other, about each other. We have a lot to apologize to each other for, and actually be accountable to that apology, and learn and be okay to say, I'm wrong, I didn't know. And that's not an excuse, but this is how I'm fixing it now. As Sudanese, we need to do that first. And I don't think we have any right to ask for Africans, and by Africans, you know, Mika, and anyone who's heard me before, by Africans, I'm talking about Africa with a K for kinship, and I'm talking about Mama Africa and all her children everywhere. I'm not just talking about the continent that is Africa. We have to hold ourselves accountable to the ways that we allowed for the misinformation, to be able to connect to our Africa. So many, well, as a Sudanese, we're neighboring Eritrea. I had no idea what Isaias was doing in Eritrea. In my name, that the so-called government that did it in my name and my religion supported Isaias to get into power. And I had no idea what was happening in my name to the Eritreans. I had no idea what was happening in my name to my fellow Darfuris. We have to take accountability within ourselves first. And I'll leave it there, and then we can, I'm sure everyone here has something to say to that.
100%, Nima. I agree. I think the other important thing is that we need to learn from our history. You know, Rwanda and other countries have experienced the exact same thing that Sudan is experiencing right now. And if you look at Rwanda now, it's able to build itself. You know, so we need to learn from our own history, from our own neighbors, as Michael was saying, and what can we do from now to start rebuilding Sudan. We already know that the Sudanese people, once they stand together, they make the impossible possible. Sarah earlier, you know, stressed out that we were able to throw out the Bashir. They were able to, you know, the people stood together and they became so powerful, and they were able to make the impossible possible. So to stress what Michael was saying, you know, what can we do as the whole African nation, the continent, to stand together and start rebuilding each other, learn from our history, learn from those who colonized us. Take the good. Yes, colonization, by all means, it was the worst thing that happened to Africa. But what good came from it that we can learn and stand up on our own 2 feet again?
I want to add that if Mika remember, like our discussion during the revolution of Sudan, I have said, like, the revolution in Sudan is actually the revolution of Africa itself. So because first Sudan is the word that describe the sub-Saharan Africa from Eritrea till Senegal there. So this revolution is not just inside Sudan, but actually it's outside Sudan. This is first. And also, like, during this revolution, the young people start saying, like, because the Bashir trying to exclude the people from Darfur and saying, like, these are thugs from Darfur, and the young people start saying, like, ya unsur al-maghruk al-balad Darfur, like, oh, racist or arrogant, all the countries Darfur. So this is change minding, you know, the minds are changed. So yeah, so I really want to link what's happening in Africa and what's happening in Sudan. And if this revolution, like, succeed in Sudan, this will give a spirit to all the neighbor countries and a spirit to all Africa to revive again. So that's why it's really important to support it, and it's really important to stand with the young people in Sudan and support the transitional power in Sudan. And yeah, that's what I want to say. And also, before we go further, like, the commenting of what Dima said before, we should really focus on like neglecting the language of exclusion, because in the first place, what have created the RSF is the exclusion of people of Darfur. Like, the Bashir was trying to exclude them from the country, so they created some Janjaweed or whatever to kill them. And now we should really start, because Sudan is the size of UK, Spain, France, and Portugal, and even Germany, all combined. So, and it has 19 ethnicities, at least, different ethnic groups, I mean, and more than 400 tribes. So this country, we should really like neglect the language of exclusion. Like all the Sudanese are Sudanese, and we should like very try to amplify this word and accept whatever like the person in front of us. And in the first place, Arabs and Africans are all like part of the land, and we are all Sudanese, and even like the North Africans are also like part of us, you know. So they should start rethinking, like not trying to, you know, divide themselves, and this is North Africa and this is South Africa and this is the middle of Africa, whatever, these all namings, you know. So Africa is one, and there is no place for language of exclusion in Sudan and outside Sudan. Yeah, thank you.